Welcome to the 9th episode of
Hey.
Conscious Awakening. Today we have Brandon Ghidossi of Harmonious CBD.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted him to be on my podcast because...
No, I really wanted to be on her podcast, is the
No,
truth. I was begging her to be on her podcast.
He was not begging.
I was like, Rosemary, I'm coming down to Vegas. When can I be on your podcast? She's like, okay, we'll set something up.
All right, and now we're here. We're at Desert Breeze Park, one of my favorite parks in Vegas because it's so huge, and I've had a lot of good memories here.
Yeah?
Nice. It's a lot of high school and college memories.
Hanging out here.
Yeah,
It
just
is a
hanging
nice
out.
park. It's cool.
Yeah, it's huge. Anyways, so I wanted you to be on here because you're really about CBD, obviously. You have a company about CBD.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I love you is because you're about educating and healing, not just, shelling it out because the industry's hot right now.
Yeah.
And
Way too much of that shit out there as is.
Yeah.
We don't need to add to it.
Yeah, and let's just, start with the basics. For all those out there who don't know what CBD is, what exactly is CBD?
Yeah, so CBD has become a really, really popular thing, and CBD essentially is it's one molecule. It's a phytonutrient compound from cannabis, and it's really profound in essentially in kind of more like a layman's terms, just inspiring the body to kick up its anti-inflammatory healing effects. So our body has had an endocannabinoid system since the beginning of our evolution, and these cannabinoids, which our bodies produce also as well, have been around speculatively in fungi for about 150 million years. Wow. So so it's profound. And this system we have in our body, this endocannabinoid system, is the biggest regulating system arguably in the body, because it's where it operates is on a cellular level, on the cellular membrane level, in these receptors. So by introducing highly concentrated versions of cannabis extracts, whether you're isolating one molecule or you're utilizing the full plant, it has a very, very profound effect on the body, and probably 95% of the time that effect is very positive, assuming that the product that you're taking is the correct product, which is what we're having problems with on the market. There's a lot of fake products. There's a lot of really low quality products. A lot of companies popping up left and right like weeds, and that's great. I'm proud and I appreciate people's intentions to help people, but when you attempt to help somebody physically or spiritually, you have to make sure that you kind of study and pay attention to the modality that you're trying to use as a medium to heal people. And if you don't get down to the bottom of the quality, is it safe for them? People are just jumping in because they're excited, and it's great, but you can't just jump in and grab any CBD from anywhere, or any, cannabis products from anywhere, because they're not all made the same, and in a lot of circumstances it can be dangerous for people's health. And they're doing just kind of like, random studies on CBD companies now, big ones, and reporting back what it has in it, and things that they say that it has in it that it doesn't. So, I'm glad that stuff happens, because really there's no room in this cannabis industry for just money. You need to be in it for healing, and you need to be passionate about helping and healing people. Otherwise, don't get in the industry, because it's just going to do the consumers an injustice, and it's not going to help you spiritually as a human being, because that's not a path that you want to go down if you want to grow spiritually. And then it just convolutes the industry with stuff that cannabis is not meant for. Cannabis is a plant created specifically for profound healing in many, many ways. So we have to stick with that. We have to honor the plant, honor the energy, be respectful of that, and go off of that. And there's a serious energy behind that too. And what I notice in the cannabis industry is when people go against that energy, it's like it self-corrects and rebalances itself fast relative to other industries where a lot of corrupt shit has happened for a long, long time, and it takes a while for that to come to fruition, as far as people knowing about it and then correcting it. Like, it happens quick. And I'm in all areas of the cannabis industry, so the extraction side of things, the growing side of things, like, we're passionate about all of it because we want to be able to help people. And if you don't know everything about what you're dealing with, then you can't help people very well. You're limited. And so that's my passion for now. And then self-help, authorship. I already have books written, they just haven't been published. I've had them written since I was like, I don't know, 20 years old type thing.
Oh, wow.
But the timing of the universe is not right for that. So this is a really wonderful step towards that. And it's a good way to express myself spiritually in the meantime until
the next step
things
comes.
are ready. The timing is ready.
Yeah. It's all about timing.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Oh man, there's just a lot of things I wanted to say about that. So going back to like correct CBD, what kind of makes a good CBD as opposed to something that's not that good?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, and I talk about this all the time because it's really hard, because your average consumer, I mean, the amount of time and research and everything that I've put into getting to where I'm at in the industry as far as knowledge goes is a lot. And unless you're in it, for that, or that's your occupation, people aren't likely going to come across the information that's needed. So I try and sum it up really quickly and help them. It's kind of like when I was a personal trainer, I had to read this really thick book, like it took me 4 months and the book's like this thick. And then I had tons of other certifications, but I would just take all that information and just narrow it down and make it generalized for that particular person because I want to make it easy for them. So, the short answer for that is that first of all, you have to be taking a product that lab tests. So if you don't look at a lab test, you can pretty much, you can't guarantee that there's any CBD in that product at all. So that's a problem. And then you can get down to, is it synthetic CBD? Is it outsourced from other countries that have different, laws and extraction rules and growing rules and laws? Because that can affect the final product as well. A lot of extraction processes use solvents or chemicals in labs, like extraction facilities that know what they're doing. They can get those out of there. But the ones that don't, and a lot of people are just kind of making this for the money, they're using really inexpensive, not so clean sources. So, checking the labs, kind of verifying certain things with those companies, where it came from and whatnot. And there's so many different types of extractions, finalized products from cannabis. So it's tough to kind of cover it all, but you definitely want to start with the labs for sure. That's a good place.
And how can you check, for example, your bottle? How can you check if it's from a lab tested?
Yeah, so on the bottle you won't find that. I mean, some companies put their labs on the bottles and they say those are labs. Those aren't labs.
Oh, they're not?
No, that's just data that they put on there. They could write whatever they want. A lab is an actual document, it's a piece of paper that has the lab company's name on it, their phone number, has all the data. They're not easy to read, that's the hard part. Like we made ours easy to read because we worked with our lab and asked them if they could, essentially when they do the data input, they measure it in certain ways. It's either a percentage by weight or it's a milligrams per gram. It's like a total phytocannabinoid content. There's certain things on there that aren't easy, but I encourage people all the time because my phone number is on every brochure. There's tens of thousands of those out there in the nation. They can call me, they can email me their products, pictures of it, copies of labs if they have them, and I'm honest, you know what I mean? Like I don't give a shit, honestly, if people buy our product or buy someone else's. I don't care. That's not why I'm in it. But what I do care is that they're getting the right product. So if they contact me, and I don't charge for any of that stuff, never will, I'll let them know straight up, yes, this is good, or there's still some questions that I would ask, to get to the bottom of it, because they're putting it in their body, and there's so many things out there in our food and water, chemicals, and so many bad things that we put in our bodies. So this is one of those things that's supposed to correct all that shit, not add to it.
It's supposed to rebalance.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I keep forgetting that that you can really. Well, wait. Can you go online and just check it, or do you have to actually ask?
No, you
company?
can. Well, it depends on where they display their labs, if they have any at all.
Oh, that's true.
Finding those labs in the first place is tough, and then and if a company doesn't display those labs openly, just on their website next to their product photos, then that's a red flag, because that's
questionable.
The first thing they should put if they're really indeed truly being transparent, and honest with themselves and with the consumer. So But if you ask them for a lab and they won't send you a lab, or they don't lab test, then I honestly would not even consider taking that product. Just because, if they're not even going to do that, people can fudge their labs and fake them and stuff. That's another thing. But at least if they provide a lab, like you have a place to start.
Yeah.
But if there's no lab, you have no place to start, because it's a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm.
You're just taking a gamble.
Yeah, transparency is a big thing. Just in general.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't be transparent, then how are you going to trust it?
Yeah.
especially if you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to be more mindful of that.
Yeah.
So you said CBD is a molecule of THC.
It's a molecule from cannabis.
Molecule
THC
from cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I keep getting that mixed up.
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
This is why you're here. So, because it's part of a molecule of cannabis, I get a lot of these questions. Will it make you high?
No, it does. It does elicit a it's called a psychotropic effect, but it's not in the sense. Everything does. Anything you put in your body, any food, anything, it elicits a psychotropic effect. It elicits a chemical triggering that does something emotionally or physically for your body, like makes you feel good, makes you doesn't. So, but it's not the same psychotropic effect that THC has. So THC is specifically for anybody that's consumed cannabis in one way or another.
Yeah.
But CBD does not have that at all. However, what CBD does specifically is it doesn't interact with they've found out that it doesn't interact directly with our receptors in our body. It encourages the body to produce more anandamide, which is an endogenous. Well, it's an endocannabinoid. Essentially, our body produces it, and that's the runner's high. So if anybody's an athlete and has gone and done extreme workouts or anything like that, afterwards you're just like hyper focused, like holy shit, like this is crazy. Well, that's anandamide. So and why the body produces its own cannabinoids is to help boost the anti-inflammatory effects that it's having, because it has to take care of that at some point in time, otherwise it can't heal, because inflammation stands in the way of the healing of the body. So that's its own natural way, and then the ones in cannabis are just very highly concentrated, and there's hundreds found in the cannabis plant. Other plants have phytonutrients, phytocannabinoids, but it's just not as much, not as broad of a range, and it's not as highly concentrated as cannabis. Plus, cannabis has really strong terpene levels and stuff. So all these things work together. It's an amazing plant. I mean, there's so many things that we can do with this plant. They're coming out with hempcrete, and we're doing a Utah cannabis exposition coming up. We are always doing expositions and stuff. And when we were picking our booths, like I got to look at the chart and I was like, all right, whose booth is here, 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 here? And I was looking at the companies, and there's this one company that does hemp building materials, and I was like, yeah, we're the booth right next to those guys, because that's why we do it, and I want to talk with those guys, and I want to learn more about like what they're utilizing it for, how they're building it, what other materials they're putting in it. Is it fire retardant? What's the bio, what's the life on the, on it biodegrading and things of that nature, and then also be able to refer people, plus it's an energy. That's why why we met, back in New Leaf, was because like we were just talking about energy and spirituality and stuff. Like, this person's like, I love people like that. You know what I mean? So it's exciting time for cannabis right now. It's really exciting.
Wait, what is hemp? I'm still kind of confused of what hemp is.
Yeah, the government did a great job of fucking that up for everybody. So, for real, marijuana was just a term coined for high THC cannabis strains to make them, look like it was bad. And, so that was the propaganda, right? And that happened back in the early 1900s. And actually cannabis was being used, or hemp as a industrial commodity, was being used for a ton of things. It was going to be what cotton is now, but the government stepped in, and actually cannabis oil was at all I guess they were like, pharmacies back then, but just small stores that you could buy your own medicine and self-medicate, and you can see it like these really old ass bottles, those like old brown ones with old labels, and it was just all it was just all cannabis oil, and so people were healing themselves. And then naturally, the powers to be, or the string pullers, the puppet masters, the big money and all that stuff, they decided to go the direction of cotton, and then later on pharmaceutical and stuff like that. And that's why our country got so messed up versus other countries using alternative medicine. It's just a regular part, they're holistic, all their food is natural. So our country, to my knowledge, is the first in the world to do these pharmaceuticals on such a large scale. We're totally separate. Our Western medicine is totally separate from the rest of the world. The rest of the world's kind of picking up on some of those things and has for a while, but they're not in it like we're in it. We're in it. So to answer your question, marijuana is considered, the high THC cannabis strains, as everybody knows, and then hemp is considered the high CBD cannabis strains. So it's all really just cannabis. There's no hemp or marijuana. Those are just like, sub names that they were given to kind of, label them separately as this one's non-psychoactive, this one is psychoactive. And then some people will talk about male, female, the marijuana plant being a female, the hemp plant being a male. But we have high CBD cannabis strains that we extract from, and they're all female plants, and they're considered hemp, federally. So because they're below 0.3% THC, but they are high CBD cannabis strain, female cannabis strains. So because that's where you get the flower, and that's where you get the most nutrients, and we extract from the flower. So the flower has all the nutrients, so that's where you want to do that extraction from. When you're dealing with seeds, it's good for hemp seed oil, which has a lot of omegas in it and some other nutrients, but doesn't have really even a measurable amount of phytocannabinoids because it's in that infantile stage. It hasn't matured yet. And then the flowers is where the vast majority of the nutrients is. There's some in the leaves, but the stem and the stalk is fibrous material. There's not a ton of nutrients in there. So yeah, it's an interesting time, and there's a lot of different products out there for that stuff. But yeah, that's the difference between the two.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, because my roommate used to work for Hempway, and then so he never really explained what it was, and so now I know. Thank you.
Oh, trust me, all this shit's confusing, in the cannabis industry.
There's just so many labels, and it gets kind of overwhelming because when I first, started consuming what it was labeled as marijuana earlier, I was just like, oh, what is this cannabis? What is this THC? What is this CBD?
Yeah.
So going back to, I know you mentioned that something about being 0.3% THC.
0.3%, yeah.
0.3%. So when you consume something like with that low of a THC, does that still show up on drug tests, for example?
And I get asked that question all the time, and it very well can. It all depends on the person's metabolism, body fat composition, where they store that THC within their body. If their nutrition, their water consumption, their overall spiritual well-being, like all that stuff plays in a factor. And so there is absolutely no way to know other than to go, and their genetics. So you need to go and self-test, So I tell people, like, with our product has 0.3% THC in it because it needs to. Like, that's the full plant extract. So you get all the nutrients. That's your best shot at taking care of whatever ailment that you have going on. And but you would probably need to take it for about a month and then go self-drug test. But then at the same time, you need to know the threshold that your employer has for pass or fail, which is a slippery slope. You're like, yo, hey, by the way,
I know you're going to test me.
What's our pass-fail rate?
Yeah,
oh, shit. Wait, are you trying to consume drugs? And they still think it's a drug, too, so that's a problem. I'm all for people not consuming cannabis in workplaces where they're around heavy equipment and stuff that's important that could jeopardize people's lives. I go to a lot of places where people consume cannabis all day, and they're just doing jobs that it's fine. It's not a big deal. They chill. Their personality is great. They're not uptight. They're not stressed. The energy is better because of that. Cannabis, chills people out. It's so good for the complete opposite of what alcohol does. So you'd have to self-drug test and then know what your employer's threshold is. So it could very well be in your system or show up in a drug test, but I would find it hard to believe at that small of a concentration that you would fail. But there are some occupations that have zero tolerance, like a CDL, for instance, a commercial driver's license, truckers and stuff. They have zero tolerance, and there's other occupations as well. So if you're in one of those situations, you definitely would want to get an isolate that has no THC in it, but you got to watch out for some of these isolate products in the market because they're not pure isolate. You need 99% pure and above to not have trace amounts of anything else, including THC in it. So you could be taking a non-verified CBD product that you purchase online. Maybe they have labs. Maybe those labs are fake. Maybe they don't have labs, whatever. You're taking a risk, because you're dealing with something that's an extract of cannabis. So anytime that you take something that has a very high level of CBD and a very high level of THC and lower levels of all those other phytocannabinoids, you're always at risk of getting THC in there if it's not done properly, or if you're not even aware that it has it in there because they're not disclosing that, or they don't know where they're getting it from. It's a shit show. Seriously, the CBD industry is a shit show. The cannabis industry is kind of a shit show. But CBD is worse. It's the black eye of the cannabis industry right now, in my opinion, because it's not regulated and people just can get a hold of it and spread as much misinformation as they want, put whatever they want on their labels that doesn't correspond with what's in the bottle. It's bad. It's really bad. A lot of people are getting ripped off, and hopefully their health isn't being jeopardized because hopefully those products aren't, but anything you take long term and you're putting directly in your body and that goes into your bloodstream, even if there's minute amounts of something that shouldn't be in there, that works on a molecular level and can really affect things in the body.
It can definitely add up.
Yeah.
So good thing I'm glad you talked about isolate, because I want to actually talk about that next. What is an isolate versus a full spectrum that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So I think we need to recoin the term full spectrum at this point in time. We might switch that up on our labels when it comes through to full plant, because full spectrum used to mean that it has the full spectrum of phytocannabinoids from the whatever hemp or cannabis plant, right? But now people are putting it all over their bottles when it's just isolate. So isolate itself, CBD, just CBD is cannabidiol. It's one molecule, and you can isolate it because it's one of the major phytocannabinoids in cannabis. So it's at such a high concentration that it's easy to separate and isolate through the extraction processes that they do. So that is just one molecule. When you get a CBD product, if it's just CBD, which by my calculation about 95 to 97% of the global market is CBD isolate, just that one molecule. Because it's easier to produce, it costs less money, you can ship it everywhere, there's no THC. China wholesales the shit out of it into this country, which they're really good at. And I don't blame them. I blame us for not, for being more, for what's the term I'm looking for? Anyway, for kind of like scrutinizing and kind of requiring higher standards and stuff for a lot of things that are brought into this country from China specifically, or other countries as well. I mean, we have to screen that stuff. We can't just let it come in and just because it's inexpensive. Like, there's a reason it's inexpensive, not just because it could be low quality, but because of the labor issues that they have in those countries. It's wrong, paying people like slave labor. It's wrong. Like, we should not support that stuff. So either way, there's tons of problems in the world. But back to the difference in that is, so CBD is just CBD, and that's what the vast majority of those products are. The full spectrum should be a full plant extract, which should have everything in there unaltered. So some people take their products and they take THC out, they add terpenes back in, they add floral terpenes instead of cannabis-derived terpenes. So it needs to be just natural, and if you can do it with a process that's not solvent, because there's a lot of different debate on solvent extraction, and I get it. There's a lot of really smart chemists that are like, yeah, it's fine, but I still question the residual amount of solvents that are left in that stuff, because these labs, each state kind of has different lab requirements for what's considered safe levels of solvents that are there or non-detectable. They kind of stop at a certain measurement. Well, what about zero? To me is a safe measurement. You feel me? So that's the thing, is like, I don't want to see a number that's like, oh, it's less than this. Well, I don't give a shit about that, because my body's going to care about that. So I want it to say zero. So we do a gas extraction, a CO2 extraction, which is most expensive. And that's why a lot of people don't do it. And also in regards to a full plant extract, it's very hard to maintain all of the nutrients without destroying them if you don't know how to do a proper CO2 extraction, which is slow and gentle. Like our CO2 extraction takes 3 or 4 times the amount of time than any average CO2 extraction because we're doing it really slow. We want to maintain all the nutrients in the plant. We also waste more plant matter because of that, but the final product that comes out is far superior, and that's what we're looking for as results for people. So
yeah. And you care about quality over quantity.
Absolutely. 110%.
And so when it comes to, like, say someone's shopping around for CBD and then they come into your place, and I forgot how much your a product is for you.
Yeah, like that one's $65. That's a full plant. We have a 750. That's $82.50. We have a 1500 for people that have really extreme pain issues, and I dose everybody too. So that's a free service that I offer. Like at the Bud Center Fight Club yesterday, this lady was like, I just have a question. She was very kind and nice, and she's like, how much do you charge for a consultation? And I looked at her and I said straight up, I said, I don't charge for consultations. I believe that wisdom and information to help others is free, period. I don't think anybody should charge for that stuff. So, but that's a major thing is you can buy a CBD product. It can be what it says it is, but then you got to figure out the dose based upon your ailment. And that is what we call window of efficacy. And it's very, very important. If you don't establish that, then your results can be largely hit or miss. And a lot of people get really discouraged quickly. We're in a nation of people that they want quick results.
Yeah. So what's the difference between like taking your product and, for example, like a CBD gummy? Because that's kind of how I started and how I started getting exposed to CBD.
Yeah. CBD gummies are okay. There's a multitude of reasons why I'm not like a huge fan of the CBD gummies. Number one, it's more than likely an isolate. Number two, there's certain acidic levels within our digestive system, our digestive tract, that break down nutrients and absorb them at that point. And I think when you have a gelatin substance like that, it's really hard to know, and formulate those products to be very, very effective at absorption rate amongst those acidic levels. So same thing with sublingual. That's probably the second best, but it's the only reason it's second best. It's first best and then it's second best. It's first best in the aspect that it's potent. It absorbs sublingually in your saliva glands, and then as it's going down, and it's very concentrated. So no matter what, you're getting a very high concentrated amount. The first best in the aspect of it, absorbing or going directly into the bloodstream is through the lungs. And so if you vape, that's the first best option. But the problem with the vapes is that they're not concentrated enough. So there's not a high enough milligrams. It's hard to formulate those things without them crystallizing. So, and then people put other ingredients in those vapes that are conflictive, like VG and PG and MCT oil, as far as like being good for your lungs or not. So we're formulating a vape right now, and it has to be done a certain way, like the most natural way, and it's very difficult to formulate. This plant is not easy to work with in certain aspects, certain products, but so there's prices all over the board, but I think overall the sublingual application is the best right now. Gummies are hit or miss, and plus it's very hard to say that there's 10 milligrams in a gummy or whatever. It's really hard to do that because you have to be really, really good. You have to have really, really good lab extractors and product developers and formulators, and then also you kind of have to lab test it. And it's like, how do you can batch lab test it, but like how do you it's not that easy to control. You're working with some difficult substances. So, but yeah, the gummies are okay. I would always recommend that people do a sublingual application though, for the most part, unless they have like some stomach issues where they're trying to clear that up. But then I would recommend like a 1-to-1 RSO for that. That's a different product. I wouldn't really recommend. I'm not a fan of gummies or capsules and stuff. I know it works for people, but I just think there's better delivery methods than that. That's my personal opinion,
Yeah, when I actually first tried it, it's really hard for me to get into a habit of things.
Right.
But I actually did do it for a month, and I felt amazing.
Nice.
And so what exactly do people, or why do people take CBD?
Yeah, largely, well, if I were to break it down into kind of percentages of ailments that people purchase it for, I would say the larger percentage out of all of them is for pain relief. I think that they're trying to transition off of opiates because they realize now that there's an opiate crisis because someone shouted it at the top of a mountain, even though there's been an opiate crisis for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But now we're in an opiate crisis. You know how things are with humanity. We're not always at the highest level of consciousness collectively, but either way, so it's stress, sleep, anxiety people take it for, also some more rare ailments like MS and different kind of like diabetes type issues where they want to get off opiates and kind of regulate their blood sugar. And so there's a lot of things, but it's mostly pain issues. I mean, but I would say anxiety, stress, sleep, that's a close second, and really I think those two are in direct relation with each other. I think lack of sleep, an influx of stress and anxiety, I think that leads to the body breaking down and having pain issues.
Yeah, I agree. And it was kind of hard for me to kind of measure like my anxiety because I take it for that and pain relief. But I mean, during the month that I did take it, I did notice that I wasn't feeling as like scared or just like that social anxiety of going out and like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to these people type of thing.
It's funny that you say that because I always try and explain that to people, and it's hard to explain how that works, right? And I tell them, I'm like, it's like you're in the same stressful environment, but your body just doesn't give a shit about it, and your mind just doesn't give a shit about it. It's weird. It's like you experience the same things, but and it only makes it so far into your psyche and then from there down into your body. If something stops it there, or the inflammation from the stress gets taken care of so quickly by the body that it just kind of like negates that whole process, that negative process. It's fascinating, and that's something that we're huge on. I want to be the guy in a lab coat, at just some massive clinical studies, hugely important clinical studies that have to do with cannabis, and being able to use our product as kind of like a medium for their testing, because I have all those results and I can tell people, this is what it takes, for this, this is how much to take for that, and that's where we want to be, because this is an alternative medicine. This isn't a game. We're not selling like inanimate objects like TVs or electronics or something. This is something very, very important,
and very powerful.
Yeah. And furthermore, if we don't take it seriously, the government's never going to take it seriously. Those studies aren't going to be funded or allowed to be published, even if they are, and but with all things, we got to let the big baby have its bottle, and so they've got to get their hand in the pot somehow before they start allowing things to happen. And I don't give a shit. They can get their hands in the pot. Just let people be able to choose to self-medicate themselves, and we'll figure all that out. They can come out with products. The government and these other pharmaceutical companies are coming out with products right now that are, FDA approved, and they're $32,000 a year for like 100 milligram isolate that's water soluble, and they're they did a study that it works for this particular ailment, and that's great. I appreciate that, but look, like, don't try and corner the market and like do all that shady shit. Just let the people use cannabis the way they want to use cannabis. I'm all for controlling the substance as far as like not being under an influence while driving. I think they should drug test for that, have some way of testing that for driving under the influence, although cannabis just usually makes people drive slow. Alcohol, they're all over the road. You're like, that guy's drunk, and this motherfucker over here, he's on cannabis because he's going too slow. Like, dude, get the hell out of my way. But never swerving, just driving slow, you know what I mean? So in workplaces, heavy equipment and stuff, I don't agree with it. But it all depends on people's tolerance, how they use it. I think we need to have some things there, but not over-regulate. The government and these people, they over-regulate too much. It's like, look, you guys are suffocating like the creative.
It's the reverse psychology. You like you wanna capture, or not capture them. You want to keep them in here, but then that just makes them want to break free more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just an unhealthy, unbalanced energy, I mean, and the results of that are never going to be good in the end. That's just a universal truth. That's a law. It's just the way it is. It's like gravity right now. You and I can't jump up and fly.
Mm-hmm.
Not at this level of consciousness and in these bodies, but I mean, it's possible at higher levels of consciousness, but there's certain laws that we all have to abide by, and if we go against those things, the universe will put things back in balance, and so will this planet. Everything is a part of that. It will put itself back in balance. That's all it is.
I think it's just important to like figure out what that intention is, and then, I mean, you can tell when people are being authentic and really care about wanting to help people and really wanting to heal people, and
yeah, definitely.
It's amazing. We're taking steps. I'm for you, like in this, we're educating people one by one, and
absolutely
letting people know that just to be aware that there are products out there that aren't for the best for them to take.
Yeah.
And in terms of like overdosing, can you overdose on CBD?
You can. Yeah, you can. I mean, as far as adverse side effects, it's possible, but more so what happens is your receptors on your cells just shut down. They can't receive, they can only receive so much nutrients.
Yeah.
And I don't know from a chemist standpoint, but in my mind and in my heart, I feel like, just knowing the body, it would only make sense that once a certain amount of cells that are receiving that large concentrated amount of phytocannabinoids start shutting down, the other ones are going to shut down really fast in anticipation of too much. So that in itself would cause it would cause the body to not utilize it, and then the enzymes in the bloodstream need to break it down and kind of disperse it how they need to. So but as far as like adverse side effects from it, I really don't think there are any. I mean, I'm sure certain people experience certain things, because all of us are different, but there's no large amount of data of overdosing. But there is definitely a window of efficacy, and if you exceed that, you take too much. Too much is not a good thing in anything in life. Even too much spirituality, too much meditation, too much anything is not. You gotta take a breather. The body needs to rest, the mind needs to rest, the soul needs to rest. Like, there needs to be a recharging process. So but there's really nothing, nothing that people have really documented. Nothing. Yeah.
Could I just comment on just how effective he is with communicating? I just love that.
I talk a lot. Trust me. Like, my family members, my poor family members, have had to hear me talk a ton in my whole life. I'm just a talker.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, and like when I hear you, I'm right now in my mind, I'm just like, man, I want to be able to just spit out this information as fast as you can with whatever I'm passionate with. I mean, I'm kind of still figuring out and learning and sucking in all this knowledge, but yeah, I just look up to you in terms of speaking.
Doing an amazing job. Yeah, no, well, there was this girl at the Bud Tender Fight Club, and she was going to talk, and she's like, I'm so nervous. I was like, look, it's simple. I mean, I was nervous talking in front of people growing up in high school and stuff. You have these projects, right? And you have to stand up in front of all your peers, and you're like, oh shit, there's so much judgment. There's such a crazy psychological dynamic, that's going on at that age, and in that environment. And I was nervous, but it just takes practice. So I was telling her, like, just pretend you're talking in front of a group of your friends, and just you're passionate about what you're talking about, you know what you're talking about. This is the thing about truth, getting on like a spiritual kick of things, is like, if you represent truth and positivity and love, you have nothing to hide. And if you have nothing to hide, there's nothing for people can judge you all day long, but they're basically judging you upon their false perception of you. And so it's essentially, in a roundabout way, a lie. And so if when you take truth and positivity and love, that exists on its own. It doesn't need a host. It supports everything in the universe. It is that creative energy. And then you have its counterpart, which is negativity, how humans interpret it anyway. It's negativity and all that stuff. Yeah. And that's made to break things down in the universe, like we talked about at New Leaf before. And that's it has its purpose. It is the counterpart that balances the duality. So whatever you participate with is you're definitely going to have completely different results, and those are you can't change those things because those are set. Those are universal truths. That's a universal law. So when I get up there and speak in front of people, I speak from my heart. I speak the truth from my perspective, and I hope that my perspective of truth is very broad. So I see it from everybody's perspective, and that takes a lot of self-contemplation. You have to really be hard on yourself, critical of yourself, but not in a damaging way.
Yeah.
Because that's a fine line, and then be able to accept and have compassion for everybody else's circumstances. Realize that you and I experience the same things on a daily basis, same exact shit. It's just in a different way, right? Your universe versus my universe, but it's very similar. So when you're spreading that information, that's why your podcasts are so amazing, and Chuck's and these guys and everybody else, because like you guys are doing it for the right reasons. And that's why Joe Rogan and these guys are so popular, because they just spit it how it is.
Yeah.
People are tired, they're exhausted of being fed lies and being told a bunch of crap. Like they have a thirst for knowledge and a thirst for truth. There's an energy shift happening in society, in this world in general right now, especially in this country. And most people can hate the current president, and that's fine, but the one thing that person has done is they've exposed the truth. They've called out the media on their bullshit. They've woken people up, and that right there is revolutionary. Without us having to, revolt against authoritative figures, government, and all of that stuff, because it's getting out of control. They're trying to control us too much, and trying to squash out our creative ability to express ourselves spiritually as human beings. We're not robots. We're not meant for the 9 to 5.
Oh yeah.
We're meant to express ourselves spiritually. So there's a lot going on right now, and it's a beautiful, beautiful time. I feel invigorated energistically by that, because I can feel it happening. Before it was tough. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we get to be a part of it. You get to do what you get to do to be a part of it. I get to do what I get to do. All these other people, because someone has to do it.
Yeah.
And we've been kind of sitting back, just chilling, right? Just like, fuck, things are really negative right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of sucks. It's a little depressing, but
It's about that timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, no, I definitely agree with the whole energy shift that's going on. Like, a lot more people are getting woken up, and just a lot of more people are realizing that, there's more than just doing the mundane shit in life.
Yeah.
And that there's just more to themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot more people, or at least for my friends, are going within and realizing, no, I can be creative, or I can do other things than just doing this job, 9 to 5 job. So yeah, it's just awesome.
Well, you guys, I praise and have a ton of respect for you guys and everybody that's involved that is deciding to pioneer this new direction that we're going, because you guys are ready for it. You guys are souls with purpose, right? Like, you have to have a soul with a purpose to want to go out there and shout the truth at the top of the mountain, and take the criticism that comes along with that. And but it's 100% for the betterment of everybody. Everyone needs to wake up. If you can't operate from a level of seeing things for the way they really are, and from a from a truth, then you're living in Disneyland permanently. Disneyland's cool to go visit, but you can't live there permanently, because it's not
forever.
real, and that's what was happening. So it's it's an amazing time, and again, you guys are incredible for doing it. That's why I admire you a lot. That's why I wanted to be on this, is to keep that going, because we all have to work together to keep that going.
Collaboration over competition, man. And I just love how when you say that, I don't care if anybody buys another person's product or your product. It's just, the intention is just to heal and to educate, and that's why I love you, and that's why I look up to you, and that's why I just really want to help you spread your message.
Big team. No, I appreciate that. And anything you need help spreading yours, believe me, I would love to. It's a team, and whether people grew up playing on a sports, organized sports or not, it doesn't really matter. I think that helps with people's understanding of how to work with each other. I think people are too aggressive and defensive, and it's like their ego is just like holding on for dear life. Just let it go, and just accept people and work with them, because we are a team in this universe. There's not one of us that does not rely upon an external source for life. Whether it's the energy that keeps our heart beating, or any of the natural substances, water, food that we have to put in our bodies, we are constantly leaning on something else. And if we can't realize that that's a part of the balance, and that's a part of the universe and how things work, then we're resisting it, we're going against it. And anytime you do that, that becomes stale, that becomes old, the energy starts to get really low, and then you end up leaving, you know. I mean, human beings theoretically and scientifically aren't supposed to die at this early of an age, even 100 or whatever, because our cells reproduce themselves over and over and over. And it's supposed to, if we feed that properly, if we feed our cells with energy, proper energy, not I'm not talking food and water, that's important, that's a part of it, but that's a smaller part of it than the spiritual part of it.
Yeah.
If we feed it spiritually, then those things are that's largely the nutrients that it receives, because that's what keeps us alive. It's not food and water that keeps us alive, it's that energy that keeps us alive.
Yeah.
The food and water is just a part of that, you know what I mean?
It's
but
just
there's
a part of this plane.
yeah, exactly. I mean, this is part of this level of consciousness, and there's people out there in the world, and they've documented this stuff, you know, like meditation masters that just don't have to eat. They just receive nutrients from the sun, the ether, and whatever. And that's a real thing, because you got to think, like, that energy is it's giving these trees life, and those trees are giving us fruit, and we're eating that. But why can't we just go directly to the source of that energy and just feed directly off of that? We're using things as a medium because not everybody is able to tap into that energy, but it is there, and it's available for every one of us at any moment. And we just have to do the hard work to get our ego out of the way and to learn how to feel that and reconnect with our soul to make that happen, you know. It's not an easy task.
And to get rid of everything else that we've accumulated after all these years. But I hear these stories of, like, one of my friend's friends, he's very self-sustaining. I think it's going to sound weird, but he drinks his own pee, and that's all he does. And I'm just like, whoa, that's freaking crazy. How is that possible? And then I've heard of people they stare at the sun and they don't eat. And I'm just like, whoa, I just wonder what they've had to go through to get to that point.
Yeah. It's a unique process. It belongs to all of us. You know, that's why when people follow organized religion, I think it's very foolish. Not to, you know, using it as a stepping stone is one thing. Relying upon it as a crutch is entirely a different thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, people that are able to do that, like, you know, those people, they've found their own way. It's important for us to not follow other people's paths, maybe learn from certain things and utilize those, pick and choose, but to find our own. And that's what all the great, you know, kind of philosophers and sages and whatever, spiritual, you know, masters and leaders, they all preach the same thing. Don't follow my path. Don't start a religion after me. And then what do? We start a religion after that. We start going, this is what they did, walk in their footsteps. It's like, God
now
sakes,
everybody else got to do it.
They said not to do that. Like them, the one that we're writing about and stuff. So it's kind of weird, you know what I mean? But that's just human nature. That's just a part of our ego. That's a part of our challenge that we have to kind of, you know, work with. Yeah,
the challenge of everything's inside of you. Just look inside. Don't look at anything external.
But yet we have to learn from the outside. And it's weird. It's like we're stuck in this human body, and we have to work within the constraints that you know we're in. And there's a reason why we're here. And I personally know that when you know that this is just a dream, you're not coming back. I mean, I know reincarnation is real because there's old souls and young souls, and there's no doubt in my mind and my heart and my soul that that's real. I know that's real, amongst a lot of other things. But, you know, that I'm going to be talking about when I do those, you know, when I do public speaking, you know, on that level, not like cannabis public speaking and stuff. And then that authorship, but there's so much to it, you know, and trying to filter through it all and figure out what is true and what's not true just on a human level is difficult, and then you have to do that for yourself, and that's even harder, you know. I
think it's just whatever resonates you. That's what you're using as a stepping stone to just make yourself a higher and more conscious being.
Definitely.
Is there anything from your writing that you would just really love to say just right now? I know we're kind of like off the topic of CBD now, but
it's all good. CBD, I love CBD. I love helping people heal. The stuff that people tell me is incredible. It warms my heart. It brings tears to my eyes. You know, tears of joy when I hear some of these things from people. It's incredible. I'm just like, I can't believe that we're saving people's lives. Like, that's what it's doing, and adding years back to their lives. It's amazing. But the spiritual thing is way more important, you know, because that's, I think cannabis is a huge facilitator for that, because it's helping people to wake up. It's giving them something that will help them be calm. It's giving them nutrients for their body. It's making a very, very positive impact, but it giving them a window of opportunity to make other changes in their life that they should be, you know, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, all of these things. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, if I had to say one thing, like from my writings or anything that would just be like a really, really important thing, like I'm focused on important stuff. Like I would rather tell people 5 things that are really, really important, like kind of a Zen philosophy, you know, like the Tao, versus like give them a bunch of information and confuse people and stuff, because then they get wrapped up into your story instead of focusing on their own. You know, I'll just tell them that, like, look, you know, the obvious things is that we're born here by ourselves, we die by ourselves, right? It's clear that we're here for only a short amount of time, and we can't take any of this with us. So I would suggest that people contemplate on that logically, without any external sources, just by themselves, and just try and think, wow, you know, that's crazy, I am going to die. I don't think people think about death too much. I think they focus on birth because it's a more positive topic. Death is a very, very positive topic. It depends on how you interpret it. And I think they need to try and figure out why it is they came here. And I was talking with a bud tender at New Leaf when we did the pop-up thing on Saturday, and I told him, I was like, bro, because he seemed a little bit confused and conflicted in life. He's trying to find himself, find out what he should be doing. I said, bro, what are you passionate about? Like, have you ever sat down and had a conversation? He started listing off some things. I'm like, dude, go with that. That's a good starting place. And then whatever happens from there doesn't matter, you know, because at least you started from your heart, and you know, it's our own journey. It's our own journey. And if you don't approach it that way, and if you don't work with it that way, then you're always going to be stuck up in a different reality that doesn't belong to you. You know what I mean? So that's what I would recommend. And then surround yourself with others that are also working on that, but you guys see eye to eye. Because I'm around a lot of spiritual people, and some of them we just don't see eye to eye. I appreciate and love everything they have going on inside of them, and I know they're doing well, and I know they're finding their own way, but we can't really relate to each other because we always get in like spiritual conversational discrepancies over certain things, and it's not like argumentative, it's just like the energy is off. And when you're around people when the energy is not off, you can be yourself freely. And I think there's more growth there because you're not shutting yourself down spiritually because of the company that you keep around you. And it's a team. You got to lean on people, you know. When you're having a tough time, don't have a big-ass ego to where you can't cry on somebody's shoulder or open up to somebody. And you need to have compassion and understanding to allow others to do the same, because we are in this together. We are a team. We have to do it individually, but we can really help each other along the way. And those are major things, you know.
I was actually feeling a little weird, a little lost this weekend, but that was a definitely good pick me up, because I felt like, I don't know, I just kind of felt like I was in limbo, but then I just got to remember, like, we're all in this together.
We're all in limbo a lot. You're not alone.
No, exactly. Like, we're all going, like you said earlier, we're all going through similar things, and just remember that even though you feel like you're alone, you're really not. And even though we are going through situations like different things, and it's essentially all under the same umbrella. And we're feeling the same things, we're feeling the same emotions, and that was pretty much it. It's already been like 54 minutes. Isn't that crazy?
54 minutes? Dang, okay. Nice. Well, I brought some product for you.
Thank you.
You can choose 2 of these bottles, whatever flavor you want. So there's unflavored, there's mint chocolate, and mango. So you can take 2.
I had the mango already.
Try the unflavored if you like cannabis. It's amazing. And try the mint chocolate. It's also good.
Thank you.
So that way you can take that for yourself, just as a gift, and, you know, for having me on your show, because I'm grateful for being on your show.
Thank you. I'm grateful you're taking the time to, you know, spit out all this knowledge and wisdom.
No, I'm not wise. I don't have a bunch of knowledge. I'm just a normal human being, but, you know, I just try my best, and I like to help people, you know what I mean? You know, that's a tough thing to do sometimes, because you have to really be tactful about it, but, you know, I mean, if people we all come together. The universe pulls us together. Everyone needs help, and they'll find something that will help them from wherever they're at, wherever they're starting at, wherever they want to get. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Everyone's good. They're always taken care of. The universe has got our backs. Like, we're loved by the universe, by that energy. By creation, we're taken care of. It may seem like we're not, and there's a lot of negative stuff, but that's just human interpretation. That's not the higher
just our perspective
way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But the quote that I always love to say, change the way you look at things, and things you look at, I would have just spit it out, but then I forget.
It's all good.
Change the way you look at things, and things you look at will change.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, people, very important, like, just to talk about what she was saying just real quick, is like, look, if you're sitting in your life and you're going, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, it's never going to be anything different if you don't change two things: your perspective, first of all, right, and your reality, your physical and spiritual reality. If you're doing the same things over and over and expect different results, you're not going to get different results. You have to make change for the results to change. And change is not easy, but change is the way of the universe, because everything is constantly in flux. Energy is always in flux. It's never stagnant. Even if it's a solid under a microscope, those energy particles are still in flux. So you have to learn to go with that flow, be comfortable within that space, and learn and pay attention along the way, and interpret things properly, emotionally and psychologically, so that it becomes a pleasant experience, because that's the way it's meant to. We're supposed to spiritually evolve. That's why we're here. So those are important things. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid of change. Change is the most beautiful thing there is in the world. You know
I love change. As I was growing up, I always felt like, I was comparing myself to others, but now I know I like to stop comparing myself. But before, I'd always be like, why do I feel like I change a lot faster compared to my friends? And it's just, I don't know, it's just, now that's how I am today, and now this is why I'm here doing this, kind of like you said, pioneering this. It's just, I had to work on myself first, and then now I could spread that to others, and kind of help others realize that change is good. And even though it may not seem like it's good at the time, like, in the future you'll be like, oh no, that was amazing, I needed that.
And trust me, we're all going to be working together. I was talking with JC. He wants to do some public speaking stuff, self-help public speaking stuff for people, and we all are going to be together. So I'm going to say this on this video now, because years from now we're going to look back on this video and go, that was it. Like, because that's what's going to happen. We're all going to come together. We're all going to work together. We're going to speak together, do seminars together, help each other write books. And however our creative way of expressing the spirituality needs to be done individually, we're all going to respect and honor each other's necessity to express that freely, and we're going to find avenues to make that happen as a team. And we're going to make a huge positive impact on this world, and now's the time. And there's no coincidences in life. There's no coincidences.
I don't believe that.
Energy operates based upon what we put out, what our intentions are. It's not just a random occurrence, right? So there's definitely a reason for all of it, and it is going to come to fruition. I feel it. I know it's there. It's just the timing. It'll come to fruition when it's meant to, and it'll be gentle along the way, and everything will be positive and full of love and full of purpose. And that's how it will be built, and naturally, and that's what it'll be. So it's gonna happen. It's coming together. I feel it.
This is our documentation of our manifestation.
Yeah.
Visual and audio. One thing. Just shout out to Chuck and JC, because without them, I wouldn't have met Brandon.
And the universe, for bringing us all together. Because I've met so many wonderful people just recently. When I freed myself up spiritually from some negative environments and situations I put myself in. Remember something, people. You have to take yourself accountable. If you start pointing the finger and start blaming other shit, you're gonna be lost forever. You have to take responsibility for the things that are in your life, and for you bringing those into your life, because they didn't just fall into your lap. Like, you can trace back your thoughts, your energy, everything, and you can follow it all the way to the point where that shit happened. So the universe brought us all together, and we all wanted that. We all asked for that, and we just didn't know what we were going to get, and we got each other.
Yay.
And thankfully, everyone's pretty cool.
Yeah, thankfully, everyone is all on the same
Actually,
page.
everyone's amazing, really.
Yeah. But yeah, it's already been an hour.
Cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I felt like that was only like 15 minutes. Where can we find you
Timeless.
online?
Yeah, so right now I'm just, as far as social media goes, I'm just with the Harmonious CBD. And then I'm going to start up my own Instagram of just spiritual stuff. You helped inspire me to do that too.
Yay!
Because I see Rosemary, she does these really cool, like, black background with these quotes on her thing. And I'm like, God damn, she is fucking amazing. Like, I love that.
Man.
So I have been wanting to do that kind of thing forever, and the timing just wasn't right. But I'm going to do that, and that'll just be Brandon Ghidossi, like my name. It'll probably just be the full thing. I don't know, maybe an underscore or something, but I'll let you know when that stuff happens.
Cool.
That's something I'm working on, It's a timing thing.
And if you need like Photoshop help or anything, just let me know.
Thank you. Yeah.
No,
Likewise, anything I can offer to you to help you along your way, I'm always there. I'll drop what I'm doing to help people like yourself and some of these other wonderful people that are doing it for the right reasons. Like, that's more important than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, takes second, importance to that.
And the feeling's mutual, man. Whenever
Thank
you
you.
need anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, just hit me up, DM me,
Of course,
text
of
me.
course. Yeah, hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and thank you for
everyone.
watching. If you made it all the way through, I hope you've learned a lot about CBD.
Yeah.
And definitely check out his website, check out his products. And if you have any other questions about maybe if you already have a product and you wanna ask him if it's good or not, just do you want me to put your phone number on there too?
Yeah, you can put my phone
Cool.
number, my email. It's totally fine. Everyone has that information. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing but just good intention and as much knowledge and information as I can, accurate information. And my intention is always to help people. So no matter what, they're going to get that, you know what I mean? So, and spiritual stuff too, you know what I mean? Like, anybody that wants to talk spiritual stuff or do, collaborate on stuff like that with Rosemary and myself, anybody, like all of us, like, we need more of that getting out there. We really need to push that. Just in presence, not in force, but in presence, to get more of it out there, to inspire other people to open up and express themselves and be okay with it and know that they've got support. And in this world that kind of scrutinizes a lot, like, we're here to support each other, and we don't have anything to hide and we don't have anything to fear. There's no fear involved with any of this stuff. It's just positivity and love and help, wisdom and stuff like that. Yay,
that was an amazing ending. You can find all of his stuff in my description below. And thank you for listening. If you're on the audio version, or if you wanted to, watch the video version, go on my YouTube. And thank you again for watching, and we'll definitely see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.